Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Meek again. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Big H Paris. There are a bunch of things I want to tell you about. There's some interesting stories coming out of the Parisian stores now that we're kind of heading into, almost kind of ending the first quarter of the year. And then I want to tell you where I stand in terms of the horse herself. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you basically what I'm looking for this year when I go back traveling. So without further ado, I want to share a super crazy story that I read on the passport. You can just go on the Parisian thread, you can go read it yourself. But without further ado, please fully subscribe to my channel, hit notifications, and here we go. Okay, the first story is absolutely insane, okay? And it's basically from this woman who posted on Valentine's weekend. And she was basically there with her husband, and her story is super long. I wanted to just brief you guys and let you know what's popping, but it's completely wild. So I'm gonna summarize because it's a very long story and I'm worried that like you guys might zone out, but salute to this person. She had a harrowing journey. She said, I want to report back from our Valentine's Day trip in Paris. I was looking for a K25, K28, preferably Cellier, or birkin 25, or birkin 30 in cray, pink, rose sakura, rose d'essai, or anything neutral like a tout pour éteint. They landed on Valentine's Day, Friday morning. Both husband and I applied for an appointment the day before. For this day, we were rejected. It didn't bother me as I had an appointment with my SA at Sèvres. Okay, so just to summarize what she's saying. She then goes to Sèvres. She's excited, because she had an appointment. She gets there, her SA's not there. And then they're like, oh, your SA's not here. And she's out for the week. What? And then she said how she was like in shock. She also didn't notify me. Another SA took over the appointment, informed us no stock after we gave my wish list. We then dropped by FSH, where the leather appointment host was borderline rude, sternly reciting a robotic script about how there are no walk-ins. On Saturday, she goes back, they've applied online as well, her and her husband, they line up as well, and then the SA says no stock as it was a Saturday at Sèvres, and then she goes back to FSH, and then she says, we got lucky because even though the rude host from the day before was there was another host who helped us help them get a walk-in appointment. He seemed genuine and informed us a no stock, but also offered me a Constance 18 in blue electric with gold hardware. I politely declined as I do not love that color and blue was not on my list. I totally know how you feel. I then bought some sandals from another SA in the shoe department. I have to say I was pretty disappointed. Not only that her SA cancelled on her, but that she had been getting rejected, and the leather host was also rude. On Monday, which is now the 17th of February, she applies online, they're rejected again. She lines up again at Sèvres around 10:15 in the morning. And then her and her husband wait until 11:45 to be seen. Get another SA and he says no stock as the store is under renovation. That's random. It's being refurbished, so stock is lower than usual. As they didn't have the storage space from before. After lunch, we dropped by FSH and got the same rude host as Valentine's Day. I was told no appointment. At this point, I was completely defeated. That's what she says. I was completely defeated and mentally prepared, going home empty-handed. Regardless, we had a great trip, and since we've been to Paris many times, it did not affect our sightseeing plans. Okay, Tuesday the 18th. They're rejected. Her and her man are rejected a bunch of times again as well. And then she says, I felt the urge to line up at George Cinq, okay, as I felt like I would regret had I not tried to line up one more time, but my husband didn't want me to line up, so I decided to have a relaxing morning with him instead instead of rushing to stand in line. Even though I didn't have any hope, a voice inside, she puts God, told me to just go to FSH store after we took our time getting up and had breakfast. The same host who declined us like the two previous times was not there. At that moment, that was a good sign. Another host looked me up and said I had an appointment, which I did, and was reluctant to give her another one. My wise husband quickly chimed in and asked him to look him up, and was able to get an appointment under his name. A few minutes after this exchange, the rude host we previously dealt with returned from her break, so thank God we barely dodged her. And then she says here, side note, it seems Big H only wants, well, she didn't say Big H, I just said that. BKH really wants one FSH appointment per person per trip. Of course, there are exceptions to any rule, but I think those who got online appointments will not likely be granted another one if they apply online again. That makes sense. We were just told to wait without a designated time, so we browsed wallets for my husband. And then they were looking at the SLGs and stuff, and then her husband also picked out a card holder. Notice the spending that is going on during her story, because we're going to analyze the story in a minute. The SA was nice, took her upstairs, and then basically she then kind of was like, well, the SA even tells her like she doesn't know if she has like the specs that the client wants, but then she opens a dust bag and behold, there's her dream bag, Kelly 28 Cray Cellier with gold hardware. It had the exact same specs, and then she says here, I know I sound a bit bag crazy, but some of you can relate, still in shock. I naturally got very emotional, teared up and profusely thanked her. Never in my H journey had I gotten the exact combo specs I'd wanted. My sweet SA made my H things come true. If we were, and then she says here, if we were then offered other colors, we wouldn't have bought the 4B20 she had offered. She offered them a 4B20, which they purchased. She said she thought it was a good idea to protect the interior. In summary, the reality, and this is what she says, and this is key, and this is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Okay, she says, in summary, the reality is it's gotten harder and harder throughout the years, not only getting a BKC, but even just getting an appointment in Paris. Stars have to align. I literally was saying this as well. Then get an offer. Reading success stories gave me hope, but the truth is there are many times more of unsuccessful stories not being reported facts. The rejections are difficult, and for me, it dampens the vacation, regardless of being okay with going home empty-handed. While I'm so grateful for this happy ending and dream offer, quote, I don't think I would go through this again. Okay, so salute to this person. I'm so happy for her that she got, by the way, that's a really fire offer, like Kelly 28 Cray Cellier. That's a great offer. She doesn't think she'd go through it again. Okay, so I want to kind of deconstruct her experience. I'm going to react to it, and then we're going to talk about this story. This is a good example of what many people go through shopping at Big H. In Paris. When I came back from my Parisian trip, I had so many people sending me messages saying, well, how come I walked in and I got a birkin, whatever? How come I just walked in and they gave me a walk-in, like a cancellation? Like, I experienced it. Like, no, you have to go online, I saw people being declined. It does take a toll, for sure. And I could definitely see that for her, it was like, maybe she didn't say it in the story, but she did want that fairy tale, like it's Valentine's, you know, you're going to get the appointment, you're going to get your dream, you know, Birkin or Kelly or even Constance, frankly. Now, there's some interesting themes from her story. The first thing, she was actually offered a sitting duck offer. A sitting duck offer is just a playful glamazon-ism, kind of, that I've made up, for an offer that is like a consolation prize, basically. It always tends to be a very undesirable bright color. And no disrespect, I know many of you like blue. Blue is not my personal preference. However, I know for those of you who like blue, there's certain blues that have more value at the house than others. For example, blue broom, that's a really popular blue. Blue glacier, you know, another great blue. Blue pal, and then even the slightly brighter ones, you have like blue Frida, that's a beautiful color. Even blue Zanzibar, woohoo, Zanzibar, you know, happy to hear that. But you know, blue electric honey, that is a very, very bright color. That is a sitting duck offer. They, you know, the SA offered it to her. Basically, yeah, you know, like, okay, cool, I'm gonna give you this, you can take it or leave it. Well, she didn't take it because blue wasn't on her list, and you know, she didn't want to get a Constance, she wanted to get a Birkin or a Kelly in the colors that she had wanted, right? Another thing that was a huge theme is this obsession that people have with getting a Parisian SA, but not realizing that the Parisian SAs, and salute to them because their job is hard, that job is not easy, but the Parisian SAs are going to do what they're going to do, honey, okay? Her SA was out. We discussed this story in the group. There were lots of really interesting reactions from Facebook group members. Make sure you go join my Facebook groups, link below. Some people in the group were like, well, you know, maybe the SA just like, you know, was ill or wasn't well or whatever, and those are fair things. I find it very unlikely that her SA was all of a sudden ill and it was out for the week. What I think is probably the SA probably went on holiday. Okay, the person was probably out on holiday and didn't let her know. Even if the person was ill with C19, you would still let a client that you had an appointment for know if you're professional. And most of the people who work at Big H are professional. So yeah, the SA basically mugged her off. She got mugged off, okay, by the SA, which to me is my definition of a nightmare. Feeling excited, knowing that you're going to Paris. You're like so happy because you're going to Paris and everything's great, and then you get there and then there's no appointment for you, like nothing's popping for you, like nothing's happening. That would just be a nightmare. So I feel like that was a really shocking part of it. So she literally arrived thinking, she's gonna score her bag from the SA, because I just didn't mention it, but previously she had mentioned that the SA had helped her get a bag a few years prior. Now, I want to talk about this because I think people overhype the Parisian thing. I feel like unless you're a jet setter and you travel to Europe, like assuming you don't live in the EU, unless you're a jet setter and you travel to Europe like 2 or 3 times a year, or you're in a situation like me where you live in a country with no store, there's no real point in trying to get a Parisian SA unless you find yourself in Europe at least 2 to 3 times a year. Why? It has to be worth the SA's time to give you their card. They need to know you're going to buy other things, honey. They are not, and I'm sorry, but to be completely blunt, Big H SAs in Paris are not going to be like fawning after people who just come 2 to 3, once a year and you only buy bags. Eventually it's gonna be like, okay, buy some clothes, buy some fine jewelry, buy a rocking horse, honey, okay, because they're pricey. Go buy some furniture, go buy a table, go put that in there, okay? Go buy things which are going to help that person, get commission. And that's why I feel like a lot of the times, like in groups and forums, we're told like, I'll always ask for the person's card, always do this. I think ask for the person's card if you know you're going to be shopping in different métiers and you're going to be coming to Paris over and over again. But it's probably not worth the SA's time. I know it sounds really harsh. I hope no one's offended. I feel like the same for me. Like it's probably not worth their time if you're not going to be buying other things, because they're like, okay, I have this American client, or I have this Tanzanian client, or I have this British client coming, every year, but this person's not really helping me, hit my targets. Every time they come, they just ask for a birkin, but they don't want to buy something. And if you notice that in the story, that SA that offered her the Cellier Cray Kelly, at the end, there was a test. If you see, there was actually a test. Her being offered the 4B was a test. Now, the poster says that they wouldn't have purchased the 4B had she not gotten the offer, but the SA was testing her to see, like, is this person like a client or not? Because it was like, okay, will you buy this, whatever. I actually read in the same thread on the Bus Forum, another person who was offered a phenomenal offer and then didn't buy anything else that the SA offered them. The SA was annoyed and mad AF at this client. Like, this is still a business. Big H SAs do not eat on Birkin, Kellys and Constances alone. You are going to be expected to spend if you're going to get someone's card. So I think it's worth noting that. Maybe a few years ago, it just wasn't as competitive, so she got the card of the previous SA. And I know this sounds really harsh. I hope that this person isn't offended, but if she wasn't buying other things then, that SA, disappears for a week, okay? Just completely disappears. She's like Casper, she's gone, okay? And then maybe the person's like, the SA's like, okay, well, this person didn't really buy a lot of stuff anyway. They just wanted a quota bag. I can't be bothered. And I'm not going to let my colleagues know, please take care of this client, because she was lucky that the SA who welcomed her was like, okay, I'm going to honor the appointment. I'm not trying to be funny, but you get me, like, it's a cutthroat, like, Julius Caesar luxury shopping world at Big H, honey. Like, it's cutthroat. Like, it's like battle, okay? Because you know me, I love history. Like, it's like Sparta. It's like Mortal Kombat, like in this situation of shopping at this brand. So another massive theme of her story is salute to her husband. Her husband was supportive. Your husband, your boyfriend, your spouse, your partner has to be supportive if they're shopping with you. One thing that I learned from my trip is my husband is supportive, God bless him. But I feel like moving forward, I wouldn't have like probably gone to George Sank. I definitely went to George Sank because I was curious, like, and I also went because I wanted to report back for you guys, and I was like, well, I'm curious as well. But I think like the next time I go, I'll talk about that later on in the video. I feel like I would only really focus on Sephora because two things. First of all, Sephora was the one Big H store and that Edwin came with me to. He didn't come with me to FSH, he didn't come with me to George Sank. I went to those alone. But also, Sephora was cool because of the cafe. I feel like we don't give that cafe enough credit. If you've been to the Big H Sephora cafe, you know what I'm talking about. The Sephora cafe is really great for your boyfriend, your man, your boo, you get me, to sit there and just have, you know, a coffee, a cup of tea while you're browsing and dealing with trying to score bags in the boutique. And I feel like that was a master stroke of genius from Big H. Whomever in Big H came up with that idea, salute to you, because that was so clever. My husband was very comfortable, he was very happy. If I recall correctly, I was in the Sephora boutique that first time that we went, because I even posted a TikTok about it. I was in there for about an hour and my husband was Gucci. He was cool, he was happy, he was like, oh, I'm happy here, like this place is nice. And I remember like when I had finished up and I was like, okay, let's go, he's like, no, let me order another coffee. You know, he had a great time. So her husband was very supportive, so salute to him. And when he, you know, then just was like, hey, by the way, search up my name and stuff. I thought that was just absolutely lovely and so supportive of him. So I think your spouse, your partner, your boyfriend, your husband being supportive is really, really, really important. But to a point, you know, we talked about this in the group as well. Like, my gosh, you know, Valentine's weekend was spent trying to score bags. Like, we'll include Friday as well for this particular poster. I wouldn't want to spend Valentine's weekend at Big H. I want to spend Valentine's weekend with my man, okay, having a good time in Paris and not worrying about bags. I totally understand her situation because of course I wanted to score a bag as well, but you know, that was a very stressful element of it. Something else to note from here, she didn't give up, she kept going, but it did take a few days to get that bag. Some of you have told me, hey, you know, you're flying there for a day, can you score a bag in a day? I mean, I just don't think you're scoring a bag in a day without an appointment. I don't see how it's happening. I feel like in her case, they were there for a few days and her husband was really supporting the process as well. So maybe if your spouse is like supportive of the process, like you can maybe go a few days, try a few more days. But at the end of the day, one day is not going to cut it to score a bag at the horse in Paris. At the moment, in my opinion, 2 days isn't going to be enough. You do need a few days, because if you don't get an appointment, you either going to be hustling like this poster. She was hustling, honey. She hustled, she fought, she was cunning. Her husband, her man was supportive. You know how we've said how Big H, honey, they love seeing men in the boutique. They love seeing men shop. You know, maybe they thought he was also going to buy something. Maybe they thought, oh, he might buy ready to wear. He might buy a suit. He might buy, you know, some trainers. He might buy something. So they thought, okay, let's give them an, you know, an appointment. Another huge theme of this story, which if you are not paying attention, you'll miss it, is the fact that they were buying other things throughout her journey in Paris. She was buying other things. She bought some sandals, I think she said. Her husband also got a card holder, because they were in the SLG section at one point, milling around in the store, and she also got a 4B. At the end of the day, she was buying other things. And I have said it before, I'll say it again. Please don't talk about your unicorn stories from 2018, 2017. To be completely blunt, it's completely irrelevant to the situation today at Big H in Paris at the 3 Parisian stores today, 2022. If you scored in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, frankly, it's just not relevant. The situation at Big H is organic and relevant to that particular time, okay? So if you're scoring, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, you have to think about the situation that you're in at that particular time. One of the biggest lessons that we learn from this Parisian story is the fact that there are no guarantees of shopping at Big H in Paris. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups for Big H, and something that a lot of people say who live in countries with boutiques is, oh, you know, it's not working out for me, I'm going to go to Paris. I think if you're going to go to Paris and be realistic though about your chances. I had never been to the Big H boutiques before in Paris prior to January, so I had no expectations. And I was like, you know, it'd be great to score, but if I don't score, it's not the end of the world, because of my situation, I have to be very realistic and know that at the end of the day, it's going to take some time for me to score, and that's completely fine. I don't mind waiting, and for me, it's part of my faith and my belief system is that if it's God's plan for me to have a bag, I'm going to have it, and it's going to be in God's timing and God's plan. So I'm not going to be too pressed or too worried. But then it's a little bit different for me because I can't afford to travel often. I'm a businesswoman, so I can set my schedule and say, okay, let me try and get some time off from the business. Maybe, you know, I'll ask my manager at the office, you know, to stand in while maybe I'm in Paris trying to score. It's a little bit different because you have to think about your schedule and your lifestyle. Not everyone has like as flexible a schedule as me, for example. And I think it's just really important to understand that it's like, it does take time. So what I have learned for like my next Big H trip, which I think is going to be in summer, I want to try one more time. So I want to talk about my trip a little bit now. I want to try one more time for summer. Summer's nebulous, like I don't know when, it just depends like when my husband also wants to go, because you don't want this to be exhausting on your spouse or your husband, your boyfriend. Like it can be exhausting. And you know, I think like what I noticed was like the situation at Sèvres was cool because of the cafe. I don't know if I would put my husband through going to FSH constantly to follow up if he was with me. A lot of the times when I was following up, I was going alone because I just felt like it was just so stressful, and it's just a lot of stress to put on your spouse, particularly if they don't like luxury. Whereas at Sèvres, the cafe is really cool. Like they can just chill at the cafe. We had bought like phones with French SIM cards, so we had internet on our phones. So my husband was just chilling at the cafe, having coffee and on the phone. He was having a great time. So I feel like Sèvres is really cool. FSH is obviously great because there's like more stock there and there's more inventory. But the benefit of Sèvres is that all of the SAs in Sèvres are like qualified in each of the métiers. So a homewares SA at Sèvres can sell you a Birkin, a Kelly, or a Constance, or a fine jewelry SA can sell you, you know, a Birkin, a Kelly, or a Constance. I feel like a lot of people who are scoring at the moment, from what I've been reading on the Purse Forum and Facebook and Instagram, a lot of people do have some sort of spend on their profile. If you've even bought a nail varnish and then you apply for an appointment, you get a bag, you do have a purchase history in Paris. End of. I can say now I have a purchase history in Paris as well, whatever. So a lot of people at the moment, the past like few weeks, I've noticed like a lot of stories, because I'm always reading Parisian stories, even if I don't report them back on the channel. I'm always reading about Parisian score stories and people who haven't scored, and that's a massive theme coming out of Paris right now. It's like a lot of people do have some sort of spend on the books. You don't need to buy a watch, you don't need to buy a bracelet, you don't need to buy, you know, whatever, but someone does have a Click H on their, you know, profile. They do have Orans on their profile. You know, they do have maybe some nail varnishes, and they've got like a mini Kelly double toe bracelet on their profile. They have something on their profile. They've got plates, whatever. So I feel like Sèvres could work with some game playing, but you'd probably need to maybe go there a few days in a row perhaps and buy something, and then see if that SA would be willing to squeeze you in, because they're all of the Sèvres SAs basically know all of the métiers. The FSH SAs are designated to that specific métier. So in FSH, if you are looking at prêt-à-porter, that is the SA for prêt-à-porter. That person could not just go and pull out a Birkin, you know, 30, you know, in, you know, a color of your, like a color of your desire, basically. So I think like another massive theme that I've been thinking about for my next trip, and this is something which I think will come up a lot, is like the fact that the resale situation at Big H is actually out of control. A lot of you have been talking about Big C. People can talk all day, honey, about Big C, honey, but Big C has got resellers. She has got them where she wants them, honey, and Big C is fighting back against resellers. If you're a reseller and if you pay attention to what's happening at resale for Chanel, you know that Chanel have made big changes, and the changes that Chanel have made are starting to work. And if you've noticed, I follow a lot of resellers on Instagram because they have really good pictures, okay? But I've noticed a lot of them have moved into trying to sell, big H bags, because Chanel is not as easy as it used to be. I feel like Big H, I don't really know what their anti-reseller strategy is. God bless them, I wish them the best. But I feel like there are just so many resellers in Paris. Like, I've had resellers send me really nasty DMs and nasty messages. Like, after my Parisian videos, like, I got a lot of weird, aggressive, nasty messages, like, well, you didn't get a bag and you're mad because you didn't. How come my friend walked in and she got one? And then I go on their page, it's like the person's a reseller. It's like, you're not going to compare your experience shopping at the horse to me, because I'm a genuine client. I don't want to resell those bags. I have no interest in that. I would just like to purchase a Big H bag and, carry on with my day. There are a lot of resellers who are applying for appointments. A lot of resellers are hiring people. I've covered that before in the channel, where they'll hire someone to go into the Big H boutiques. They tend to hire, young women who are from Western countries, and then we'll be like, okay, go and ask for a Mini Kelly, or go and ask for this. Now, I want to talk about the situation of the Mini Kelly in the Parisian stores. I've been thinking about the Mini Kelly situation. I do believe that the Mini Kelly is basically like an influencer bag. And I feel like the Mini Kelly is part of Big H's influencer strategy. That's not to say if you're not an influencer, if you don't look like an influencer, you won't get one. I'm sure there are many of you who will walk into Paris and ask for a Mini Kelly and be offered a Mini Kelly. However, I do feel that the Mini Kelly, they do have a strategy for that bag. I feel like it is based on how you look for that bag, and I feel like it's definitely based on, your looks, okay, or your purchase history. I don't think it's based on your ethnicity, your gender, or anything like that, but I do think that that kind of plays a role. I've been seeing the types of people in groups who've been saying that they've been offered a Mini Kelly in Paris. A lot of people in Facebook groups who've been offered Mini Kellys cold in Paris definitely have that aesthetic that Big H one, regardless of their age, because it's not really about age, but it's about that kind of elegant, quiet glam that's very discreet, or that kind of influencer, fashion editor, fashion blogger look. That's just my impression. That's my reading of the situation after researching this for a long period of time. I'm not too worried about the Mini Kelly. I have other things on my list that I prefer to get, but of course, if you're offered the Mini Kelly, you have to take it. You'd be crazy not to take that bag if it's offered to you. I think that the situation in Paris is just incredibly competitive, and it's going to require people. It's really going to require you to fight. To get those offers, and it's going to require you to really be like, okay, what do I need to do in order to get an appointment? How long can I keep following up? I don't feel like I would be able to bring myself to go to Big H on Valentine's weekend. I feel like I'd want to be with Edwin, I'd want to be with my husband in one of the most romantic cities in the world. Yes, getting a bag would be great, but I feel like I'd be happy going to Fendi, I'd be happy going to Louis Vuitton, I'd be happy going to Big C. You get me, and I'd be happy to go there instead. But she wanted her bag, she got her bag. I'm really, really happy for her that she scored. She was very determined. But as you can see, it took a toll on her. That's why she was saying how she doesn't feel like she could do it again. There's another story here. It's a new one. It's from the Big H FSH reviews page. This person says, from the moment we entered the store, the experience felt decidedly more Walmart than Hermes, though admittedly that's unfair to Walmart. We informed the first assistant that we wished to exchange a ring, but we wanted to view other items first in case. Say we wanted a belt of said ring. The assistant insisted we go to the ring section directly, despite our clarification that we'd like to see other items first. By the time we end up in the belt section, after explaining our wishes once again to another assistant, security guard proceeded to inspect my wife under the pretenses that she was a potential thief after a sales assistant dropped a ring next to us. He eyed my wife from the back as she tried on belts for the next 5 minutes. We were then ushered to the back of the ring section to buy the belt, where we waited another half hour. Hermes proof that there existed tier lower than poor service, perverted. Okay, so a few things. First of all, obviously, we don't want to hear people not having a good time, but this particular story is interesting because this is a very good story about how many people who don't really, read forums, read blogs, experience Big H. Like I said, the FSH SAs are designated to a certain section. So that person could not be like, okay, I'm going to go help you find a belt. That's just not how it works at FSH. They'll be like, okay, cool, can you go there? Whereas in Sevra, that person, if they had gone to Sephora, the SA could have helped them with fine jewelry, could have helped them, with belts, could have helped them with homewares or whatever. I, of course, as a personal color, I've been in those situations where you have been profiled. It's not a good situation. That doesn't sound like that's what happened here, but they were kind of like made to feel that they were thieves or something, or made to feel that they had taken something. It's not a nice feeling. The security at Big H at Big H in Paris is absolutely rammed. I mean, it's rammed with security, particularly FSH. FSH is rammed with security. That's not going to feel good. So I do feel for them on that, because I personally wouldn't like feeling like that. Personally, if I felt like I was being profiled, I probably wouldn't have purchased the ring. I'm weird about that. I don't care what brand it is. If you profile me, I am not shopping at your store. Like, it's just not going to happen. I feel like one of the things about the Parisian situation is that Big H know that it's becoming this kind of like mythical folklore, basically. Like, you go to Big H in Paris, you go get an appointment and all of this. I feel like they are constantly changing stuff. That's why I'm always telling you, like, not to be harsh, but even my experience in January is not completely relevant to what people are experiencing in March. Like, bags are starting to be released now in forums and groups. People are reporting back, particularly on Facebook. I've seen a bunch of Big H Parisian unboxings of like really, really good offers. I saw someone get offered like a birkin Cellier. That's a great offer. Like, if you get that, what a great offer. So I feel like it changes with the times, so it's really important to note that. I think that for my trip going this time around, I'm going to try again, but I'm just not going to let it consume me. I don't feel like it consumed me at all. But I think what I'll do is I probably won't end up like vlogging any of my Big H experience. I just want to go there now and try and score in Paris, and I feel like I have a good chance. I feel more positive about it because I have spent on my books now, so I feel like I have a good chance of scoring. Another thing is I'm really interested in going into Monaco. I was talking to Edwin about it, and I think I've managed to convince him. Monaco, I think, sounds interesting for me because, first of all, Monaco is really cool. I've always wanted to go there, and there's a Big H store there. The Big H store there is said to have a lot of exotics. I'd be interested to see them, even if I can't buy any, or even if I wouldn't buy any. Apparently, the Monaco boutique, if you go 1-to-1 or 1.5-to-1, they would be willing to release the bag. They get a lot of tourists, so they're used to seeing tourists. I'm not into the idea of traveling like all over France, going to Big H stores. To me, that sounds like a nightmare. When I think of cool things to do in France, I think of going to cool, interesting places. I would love to go to Lourdes, which is a very famous town. I'm sure you know why it's famous. I want to like go to France to enjoy France. I'd love to go to Reims and see the cathedral. There are lots of really cool things to see in the country. I feel like what you need to do is like just plan your trip based on tourism, and then if there's a Big H store near where you're going, you can go and give it a crack there. I feel like smaller boutiques are tough because I think it depends on the time of year. I have heard about some people scoring in smaller towns because there's a theory with smaller towns that a smaller town will have fewer VIP clients, so they might be more willing to sell you a bag, basically because they have fewer VIPs. But obviously a smaller town will have much lower stock, like a really, really small town in France that has a Big H store. They might be in a situation where they might be getting one Birkin or one Kelly, a month, like, let alone like constantly getting daily shipments. Whereas like, FSH, Sephora, Josank, they're going to be getting products like every single day. So I think that's just something to know. I feel like if you were going there anyway, like I have friends in France, so this time around, I'd love to go visit them, but I'm in no rush. If I can visit my friends this time around, that's great. If not, I'll go see them another time. I would love to visit Monaco anyway. That's the place I've always wanted to go. So if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, no big deal. You just go try again another time. I think the problem comes when people get really wrapped up in this idea of getting the Parisian offer and the sort of fairy tale Big H Parisian offer. You're going to walk in there, you're going to go to your appointment, you're going to be like, hello, like, a Birkin 25 gold, a Cellier Birkin, gold on gold hardware, like one of the rarest Birkins to get, like a Birkin Cellier gold on gold hardware. It's one thing to get a Birkin in the standard like Breton gold on gold, but a Cellier one. And I think a lot of people do want to have that like fairy tale story. And then when you hear these actual real stories that are very brutal, like what happened to this businesswoman or these people feeling profiled, you're like, whoa, that kind of brings you back to earth again. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to try one more time in summer. I will update you guys as and when. I don't really feel particularly pressured this time around. I will just go when the time is right, and when my husband wants to go is when I'll go. I'm in no rush at all. Vacation's not going anywhere, honey. And by God's grace, I will not be going anywhere either. So I will stick around. Now, I do have like another trip planned, but that's to like another country. I'm not going to say where it is yet because I don't know if we're going yet. And if you know we go there, I might give it a crack. Right now, I wanted to kind of just tell you like what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the standard leathers and I'm interested in the exotics, but I don't feel pressured to like get an exotic or anything right now. I want to just see like what feels right. I would prefer to always buy the exotics in Paris. I wouldn't want to go one-to-one for an exotic in a like a standalone store that's not Paris, with the exception of Monaco, just because you know you always hear about how there are tons of exotics in Monaco, but I wouldn't want to try and get an exotic in a store that's not Paris, because I feel like you miss out on those savings for the you know the VAT refund. And you like with an exotic, like it depends which exotic it is. I feel like an exotic mini Kelly probably do need to do some spend in Paris, but like a Kelly Bichette and Croc or whatever, I don't feel like those exotics would require like a lot of spend, maybe just like 1,000 euros or 2,000 euros, and they'll probably just offer it to you, and they might even just offer it to you cold. It depends. With exotics, it depends how much stock they have, and it depends if people are requesting them. So if you go and people are requesting ostrich, then all of a sudden ostrich is a commodity, and they might you know be like, okay, go buy something. Are you gonna buy something else? Or they might just be like, okay, hello, you know, I'd like to get a Kelly Bichette and Croc or an ostrich, and they're gonna offer you one. With exotics, it just depends, like what the bag situation is. If they have lots of other bags and standard leathers, you know, they'll probably offer it to you without a lot of spend. But if they don't, they might require some spend. So I think it just depends. So yeah, what am I interested in at the horse? The shadow birkin. I've told you guys many times before, I love the shadow birkin. I feel like this one has to be one of my top priorities in a taupe or gold. I feel like it's just such a beautiful, stunning offer. I absolutely love this bag. I think it's absolutely stunning. And right now I've really been feeling like I want a Kelly 28 in like rose confetti, rose azalea, rose jaipur, or rose sakura. I feel like that's kind of where I am right now. And then a sort of offer that I would put to the side would be the mini Roulis in Croc or Evercolor, but I wouldn't ask for the mini Roulis in Croc or Evercolor. I wouldn't ask for that bag specifically in Paris, because I feel like if you do ask for like a non-quota bag in Paris and you want a quota bag, they'll offer you that bag, so they don't have to give you a Birkin, a Kelly, or a Constance. So I feel like the mini Roulis is a bag that I'm interested in, but only if I'm traveling to somewhere that's not Paris, I would consider asking for it. I'm interested in it in Evercolor, and I'm interested in it as well in Croc, but like I said, I would happily take it in Evercolor, and I'm very interested in that bag. I do really like it. I think it's very cute. There are other bags to a lesser extent that I like the Cinetic, but those are not priorities. Like maybe if I see it in the airport store. I did see a Cinetic at the boutique in Doha, in the airport store in Doha. I remember being like, wow, that was really cool, but other than that, it's not a priority. Like if you see it in a cool color, you take it. For the mini Roulis, I like it in rose sakura, and I also like it in blue brew. Yes, I know, shocker. That's like the lightest blue ever. It's like basically gray. You know, I like it for Evercolor. And then for Croc, I like it in like dark greens. It just depends what they have. The mini Roulis situation though, in Croc or ostrich, is like, I'm guessing that basically maybe if you buy something small, you could probably just ask for it in the boutique. It depends, because I do know the mini Roulis in the Asian stores is very hard to get, but this year it has been tough for a lot of people who love Big H, because there really hasn't been a lot of stock. So anyway, I just wanted to quickly update you guys on the things that I am interested in. Like I said, I love exotics and everything, but I don't feel pressured to buy any Big H exotics. To be honest with you, I've been looking at Fendi exotics at the moment that I'm loving. I've been looking at Louis Vuitton exotics that I'm loving at the moment, and I really would like to get a Louis Vuitton exotic. I've been looking at Dior's as well, and Gucci's. There's so many great exotics out there. At all those 4 brands, I don't have to play games. I can just walk into Fendi and say, hello, I'd like to buy that mink, you know, bag, or I'd like to buy those Python, you know, that Python like wallet on a chain or something. That's very attractive to me. So don't be surprised if I go to Big H this summer and I don't come back with an Hermes exotic, but I come back with a Louis Vuitton one, or I come back with a Dior one, because I just feel like at least I don't have to like play games, and that's a very attractive thing to me, like being able to shop at a brand and not have to play any games. So I'm gonna have my exotic video coming really soon, and next week I've been working really hard on it, and I'm going to tell you like the best ones that you can buy right now, because there are lots of really great exotics coming out. By the way, Big H have a lot of their new exotics that are coming in the new colors. A lot of them have started being offered to clients, so they're coming out as well. I think the dream is definitely a Big H exotic. I think if you like exotics, like Big H exotics are the dream, but Louis Vuitton's exotics are phenomenally beautiful. Like, I don't care what anyone says, they're stunning and the quality is fire, and you're treated just incredibly well. I mean, the way I was treated, so I have to say I'm a little bit more interested in buying a Louis Vuitton exotic, but we'll talk about that in my exotic video, which will be coming next week. So yeah, I just wanted to, give you guys the tea on what's going on in Paris. It was really interesting. We were discussing it in the group when we were discussing this story, like, why would people subject themselves to this? Like, if you have a home store, don't go to Paris. I'm not saying it so that I can have all the stock to myself. I would only go to Paris if I was in my situation. Like, God willing, Big H will open a boutique in Johannesburg or Cape Town one day. Please, God, open that boutique so that I can just fly to South Africa, because it's really, really cutthroat in Paris at the moment. So I think a lot of people feel like it's easy because they hear of these unicorn stories. The unicorn stories are unicorn stories for a reason. It's tough out there. You're also not just competing with resellers, you're competing with other clients from the EU. If someone lives in Geneva, they could just jump on a plane, they'll be there in 1 hour. Okay, Paris is like a 14-hour flight from Dar es Salaam, and someone's living in Geneva or in Zurich and they're flying every day. They're in Paris in like literally an hour and a half. They're in Paris. I mean, you can't, it's hard to compete with that, I also have my Switzerland trip planned as well, but Switzerland is not even for Big H or anything. I want to go to Switzerland anyway. I think I told you guys before, but my mom used to work in Switzerland when I was very young, and when my father became ill, he actually was being treated in Switzerland, and that is actually where he passed on. I haven't been there since my dad died, and the timing feels right to go there this year with Edwin. We were talking about it, and he's so excited about that trip. It feels really great to be able to plan that trip with Edwin, who is obviously my husband, but he's also my best friend, and he knows how much my dad meant to me. So I'm very excited about the Switzerland trip, so hopefully you're going to be going there as well. But Switzerland would be just for going, obviously for an emotional, personal reason I've just explained, but of course, I would go to the luxury stores to see what's happening. But I'm not worried about Big H Switzerland, because Big H Switzerland is wishlist. It's very much wish list. No one is walking into a boutique in Switzerland and getting an offer. Yeah, it's a wish list country, so that's not something I'll be particularly worried about. Okay, you guys, if you like what I'm doing, please consider fully subscribing and joining the Facebook group below. It's so much fun. After I finish filming this video, I'm going to edit it and I'll be back in the Facebook group. Talking to other group members, please consider just subscribing and joining. Joining this fun Glamazon vibe thing. So it's a gang. Maybe that's what we're going to be, the Glamazon gang. We're just having a good time here. Listen, you guys, I like these brands, but I don't take it too seriously. I live in a developing country. There are a lot of problems, and we just live life here day by day. Thank God for our blessings. So we enjoy Big H, and we don't take it too seriously. Like, don't join the group if you're like stressy about Big H and you're like one of these stressy people, because we do make fun of Big H in the group. We laugh at her honey, we laugh at her horseshoes, we laugh at her saddles, we do laugh at her, but of course we love her at the same time. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon in my next video.